Thought I'd do a video today, and as you could tell, it's going to do with handgun calibers. Another big channel recently asked what's our favorite handgun caliber, and channels are dealing with this issue all the time, so instead of doing a direct video response, I'll just do my own personal little video on handgun calibers. Now these are the handgun calibers that I actually own and shoot. They range from the 32 ACP up to the 44 Magnum. They include the 32 ACP, 380 ACP, 9mm, 357 SIG, 40 Smith & Wesson, the 10mm, the 45 ACP, the 38 Special, the 357 Magnum, and of course the 44 Magnum. Now I believe that all handgun calibers have their strengths and their weaknesses, but for me to own it, I obviously think that it has some strengths to it. So let's go over what I consider to be the strengths and weaknesses of all these rounds, and then I'll go into later what I think is my favorite rounds. 32 ACP. The best strength of this is that you can get guns so tiny that are chambered in it, like the C-Camp and the NAA Guardian. They're just so small that you can put them in a wallet holster, put them in your back pocket in any kind of dress, and not be any more conspicuous than you would be if you had a regular sized wallet in your pocket. Their weaknesses is they're not real powerful. I mean, they're more than adequate to kill someone. You can kill someone with a 22, but they wouldn't be my preferred round if I was in a bad situation. 380 ACP. Also great because it is small, and you can get small carry guns in it. Walther PPK, the SIG P238, which I carry quite a bit. So nice, versatile round for small guns, and still pretty powerful. I actually consider it the low end of what I would consider adequate for self-defense. Now that's also its weakness. It is the low end of what I would consider adequate for self-defense. For just a little bit bigger gun nowadays, and sometimes not even much bigger gun at all, you can go up to 9mm. Now 9mm, its strengths are varied, are vast, I should say. It's one of the best all-around calibers, period. It's easy to get follow-up shots with. It's easy to handle. The recoil isn't really bad. You can find all kinds of guns in it. Chambered in it, the round is easy to find, it's cheap to shoot, just all kinds of things like that. Now, neither of these two are cheap to shoot, 32 or the 380. You might think they would be, but they're not. But 9mm, cheap to shoot, just all around great round. Drawbacks to it, there's not really a whole lot of drawback to 9mm, except the fact that it's not as powerful as some people would like it to be. And I definitely wouldn't choose it if I was out on game trails or anything like that, where I was going to be taking something down tougher than a human. But for humans, 9mm are one of the best rounds you can get. Now 357 SIG, that's a 9mm on steroids. The strength of that round is it is an amazing penetrator. I have done penetration tests with 357 SIG. It seems to lose the least trajectory while still being able to penetrate a hard barrier of any round I've even shot, and that includes the 40. So I really like them. Drawbacks to them, they're expensive. It's hard to find guns chambered in them. They're just not an easy round to get a hold of. So it's just that, it's a real performer, but the problems with it are mostly availability and price. Also, you have similar problems like that with the 40 Smith & Wesson. Nice, powerful round. Good size projectile, nice weight, so you have a lot of nice energy, you have nice velocity, you have everything you'd want in performance, seems to penetrate well. I would say with the 40, make sure you get a bonded ammo if you really want to do a lot of hard barrier penetration, because I ran into that problem doing penetration tests. The negative of it, well, you get less rounds with a 40 than you do with a 9mm, usually 1 or 2 less rounds, and it is cost prohibitive. And it's not as common to find a round. It is getting to be where it's very common, but it's still not as common as 9mm. Now 10mm, very potent round. This is a round, when you're talking semi-auto calibers, semi-auto calibers, this is the first round I would consider good for taking out for game. Now 40 would be good for smaller game, up to deer, things like that. But if I was going to have to deal with anything bigger, like say elk or moose or bear, I want at least a 10mm. The bad thing about 10mm is, like I say, it's kind of pricey, and store-bought rounds off the shelf are underpowered. You're really going to have to go buffalo bore or hand load if you want to get a good potential out of this round. So that's its negative, and it's also, like I say, costly, not as common to find. But otherwise, really good round. Now 45 ACP. This is one of everybody's favorite rounds for a semi-auto. The advantages of it are it's got a good, big, heavy bullet. It hits with a lot of energy, hits with a lot of force, can break bones, can penetrate. It's just a really powerful round for a semi-auto, and very common too. Not that expensive, surprisingly inexpensive to shoot. A lot less expensive to shoot for me than the 357 SIG or the 38 especially. So the only negatives of the 45 ACP is it is a big fat round. So it doesn't tend to have much capacity in guns as it would be for like a 9mm. You have several more rounds in a 9mm usually. Takes a heavier frame to shoot a 45, so the guns are heavier. They're not only bigger, but they're heavier, so that does have some disadvantages for carry, but otherwise, all around, good round, easy to find. Now, 38 Special. 38 Special is a round that I shoot a lot. Now, the strength of 38 Special is it is an excellent range round. It's one of the best rounds to shoot at the range, and I really enjoy shooting it. It's not my preferred choice for self-defense, but it's still a more than adequate self-defense round. I would never feel undergunned if I had a 38 Special on me, especially a 38 Special plus P, which I believe this one is. So 38 Special, great for the range, inexpensive, but their only weaknesses, like I say, is that it wouldn't be my first choice for self-defense, even though it's more than adequate. And, you know, you are going to a revolver for that. And the bad thing about most carry guns that are in 38 Specials, they're usually 5-round revolvers. Now, 357 Magnum. Now, that's one of the best all-around, time-proven rounds in my opinion. Excellent round, excellent power, can take down big game, small game, medium game, people, whatever you're going to come up against. There's not much you can stand up against a 357 Magnum, especially not at close range. Great penetration, great power, just a great round. Now, the only negative to it is more expensive to shoot than a 38 Special, and it is not comfortable at the range at all, in my opinion. Especially with carry guns, it's just an uncomfortable round to shoot in a smaller gun. Just very snappy. I'd rather shoot a 45 ACP or a 44 Magnum all day than shoot 357 Magnum in a small gun. But other than that, great round. Just has the drawback of being a little snappy, and it's a little pricier than some of the other rounds. And but other than that, great round all the way around. Now, when we get up to the big boy here, the 44 Magnum, now you're looking at real power. Now, I do have one gun that's bigger than this, the 500 Magnum, but I don't have any of the rounds with me, so I'm not going to talk about it. And plus, it's a novelty round. The only thing it's really good for, in my opinion, is at the range, playing around. It's even too big for hunting or anything like that in a small gun, because it's just not controllable enough in a small gun. But it is a fun gun. But if I'm going to go out in the woods and I'm going to deal with any large animal, 44 Magnum is going to be my choice. Very powerful round, very capable round. Good expansion, good penetration, just an excellent gun. I mean, like I say, you can take down anything from a bear on down with a 44 Magnum. And not that hard to shoot, unbelievably. Most guns that shoot 44 Magnum are set up to be kind of heavy to help handle the recoil, so you're really not experiencing a lot of felt recoil with a 44 Magnum. You feel, in my opinion, much more the 357 Magnum. Drawbacks to it, not cheap to shoot at the range at all. The guns that are made for it, like I said, big, heavy guns. So they're not great for concealed carry. Some are. There's actually some that you can conceal carry, but they're still not going to be the easiest to carry guns in the world. They're going to be a little heavier. But otherwise, excellent round. Okay, now which round do I think is my favorite? Well, that's going to be hard to say. Now, I will say that 357 Magnum has a special place in my heart. So as far as revolver calibers go, that will probably always be my favorite. 44 Magnum has its place, especially for big game and things like that when you're out in the wilderness, but 357 Magnum, #1 in my books. Now, if we want to talk which semi-auto caliber, well, that's where it gets difficult for me. Of course, I love a big 45 ACP, but I will have to say, my favorite used to be, I would say, for everyday use would probably have been the 40 Smith & Wesson. I just really like that extra pop. I like that extra power. I like that extra penetration. I just like everything about it except for the recoil and getting a second shot off. Because of that, it's probably no longer my favorite round. I mean, I still use it. I still think it's one of the best rounds. But for personal use, I kind of go back and forth now. It would be 357 SIG. But because of how hard it is to get and how hard it is to buy, because it's just kind of expensive, I really do think it's one of the best rounds, period. It feeds reliably, it shoots reliably, it has great penetration, it has more than adequate power. So if I was going to say which is my favorite round, I'm probably going to say the 357 SIG. I think it's just got the most going for it as a caliber. Unfortunately, it just hasn't caught on as big as I would like to see. I would like to see everybody offer a 357 SIG version of their guns. I just think it has the the good points of the 40 without the negative points of the 40. Maybe it's because it's pushing less mass down the barrel. It just doesn't seem to have the muzzle rise of the 40 Smith & Wesson, so it's easier to stay on target for the second shot, and you still get just about as much power and penetration. Real term wise, like if you're going out and actually doing penetration tests through like I did through windshields and through car doors. So just probably my favorite round. Easy for me to say that, but I would say though, but when I'm being more realistic and just what I carry every day that I can afford to shoot and I can afford to practice with and I think is adequate to take everyone down, I'm going to say as I get older, I like the 9mm more and more. If I could have 357 SIG in every gun, that'd be my choice, and if I could afford 357 SIG to shoot, that'd be my choice. But since I deal with the reality of having to be a little more cost conscious and a little more aware of what I could find in a bad situation, 9mm is becoming more and more popular with me. As I get older, I find it more comfortable to shoot, find it more easy to control, find it more than adequate in penetration tests, especially if you choose the right ammo. So in the end, there's a lot of different answers there. You know, my best revolver caliber is 357 Magnum. Best handgun caliber that I really have liked is the 357 SIG and the 40, but I like the 357 SIG a little better because I think it doesn't have some of the drawbacks that the SIG has, the 40 has. But when you get down to it and you deal with it realistically, the handgun caliber that I probably use the most and have the most of on stock, and I tend to be buying more of now that I'm older, it is the 9mm.